Exposed, 3 Sinister Janitor horror stories that revealed cursed secrets in haunted locations. Sarah wiped her brow for the 5th time, feeling the humid sweat drip down her back as she began her shift. The moonlight barely penetrated the cracked windows of Gateway High School, a skeletal echo of its former glory. The once vibrant hub that filled the neighborhood of Maplewood with laughter now loomed as a menacing specter, filled with darkness. The echoes of ghostly whispers danced through the empty halls. Was her imagination a trick of the mind? The oppressive silence clung to her skin, her mop slapping against the cold tiles, the only sound dully breaking the stillness. Yet something felt off. A sinister element wrapped around her like a heavy fog. She shook her head to dismiss it. Exhaustion played tricks, she thought. As she moved through the darkened hallways lined with peeling paint and shattered lockers, the flickering fluorescent lights cast shadows that seemed to come alive, twisting and stretching against the walls. Was someone following her? She could feel it, a prickle creeping down her spine, but she pressed on, keeping her fear at bay for the sake of her son Timmy. One night as she scrubbed the floors of the science lab, a scrapping noise turned her head, her heart racing. Timmy, who had often found ways to drift into his own imagination, stood there with excitement, clutching a dusty, leather-bound diary. "Mom! Look at this!" His face lit up but quickly darkened as they flipped through the pages filled with strange sketches and fading ink. Chilling incidents, janitor who vanished, dark rituals. The words peeled away the warmth of their safe routine, an icy grip closing around her heart. The tone shifted, revealing incidents of punishment, hints of the supernatural. The hairs stood up on her neck. This job she initially thought mundane was suddenly a snare encasing them. As storms rattled the windows and shadows stretched ominously deeper, she could feel the weight of the air shift. Panic surged as fear took form. The shadows twisted, revealing a figure in the corner of her sight only to disappear when she turned. Was she spiraling into madness? But no, she heard it then, distant yet clear, her name whispered softly in the darkness. "Sarah, Mom?" Timmy's voice quivered, his eyes wide, as they both peered into the hall ahead. Every instinct screamed to run, the warning calling her to protect him from what lurked in the depths of this forsaken school. Panic turned into desperate action. They stumbled backward, racing through unforgiving hallways as shadows lunged and twisted around them. As Sarah turned a corner, her breath hitched in sheer terror. There stood the apparition, a shadowy figure with ghastly eyes that shimmered with foreboding knowledge. She trembled, feeling the weight of betrayal as the chilling connection to a powerful figure in their community materialized right before her. It whispered, "You should never have come back." Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The atmosphere tightened like a noose. Every heartbeat pounded louder with gruesome truth. Each glance around them felt suffocating, a blurring of reality where tangible fear intertwined with dark secrets that haunted the very walls. In a place where escape felt almost discreet, Sarah grappled with choices accumulating like bricks on her chest. Timmy clutched her hand tighter, his trembling body reflecting the chaos of her thoughts. Would confronting the lurking danger free them or bind them into this realm of shadows forever? As the clamor of ancient echoes crescendoed around them, Sarah's breath caught, but she had to fight. She wasn't about to let the darkness claim her or her child. Time slowed as the figure loomed closer, its form twisting like smoke within the dim light. Heart racing, Sarah forced herself to move, dragging Timmy with her, their footsteps a frantic rhythm echoing through the silence. Each step seemed to invite danger, but she couldn't stop, couldn't look back. They turned left, barreling toward the main entrance, praying the door wasn't locked. "Mom, wait." Timmy's desperate whisper twisted Sarah's stomach into knots. They paused, panting, against the cool metal of a locked door. It felt heavy, like a weight of despair pressing against her. Hold on. She shifted, the mop still in her grip like a crude weapon, ready to fend off whatever hunted them. The air grew thicker, tainted by something rotten, an unseen threat they could feel crawling beneath their skin. The whispers returned, a chorus of torment that surrounded them. Sarah. Timmy. As the words swirled, she caught a glimpse of shadow reflecting the flickering light above. A form cast like a curse, the figure beckoned her, finger curling as if to draw her closer to what lay in the depths of the school. A low growl resonated from the darkness, shaking her resolve. It felt alive, a premonition of death. We need to go. She hissed, gripping Timmy's hand tighter as adrenaline surged through her veins. They darted down a parallel hallway, the lockers closing in around them like prison bars, echoing with muffled voices begging for release. Mom! What was that? Timmy's fear pierced through her own. She swallowed hard, fear coiling with every breath. Just keep moving, okay? We'll get out. Yet every word felt hollow against the pounding terror. The hairs on her neck stood tall, every instinct screamed they were not alone. Rounding another corner, daylight poured from a cracked window, illuminating a sanctuary of hope. But hope felt elusive, like the figure still hiding beyond her vision. With sweat trailing down her brow and shaking hands, she pushed forward. The light came too easy, and that made her stomach churn. They sprang into the stairwell, the stairway yawning like a maw eager to consume. Just as they began their descent, the echo of wind howled through the hall behind them, the shadows rushing forth with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. Mom! It's coming! Timmy screamed, the sound tearing through her heart. Panic ignited, a desperate silence falling as they rushed towards the exit. With each step, flickers of dark shapes danced across the walls, laughter that was not theirs echoing, taunting them. Sarah's hands were clammy on the railing, she felt her resolve waning. Just a little farther. She urged, but the sprint began to feel like a betrayal of her limbs. The door loomed ahead, its frame flickering in and out of focus with each heartbeat. No, she wouldn't let it end here. Drawing a deep breath, she pushed through the weight of dread, shoving Timmy ahead. The moment Timmy burst through the door, it swung open fully to reveal the night sky with an unsettling moon directly overhead. But the relief was short-lived. Turning to glance back, she felt it, a shadow wrapping around her like a shroud, sucking the warmth of the evening. Mom? Timmy's voice trembled, but before she could answer, the dark figure coiled closer, its ghastly eyes locking onto hers, chilling her in place. You should never have come back, its voice echoed, sending shockwaves through her. What did it mean? Panic clawed at Sarah as she felt the grip of something unseen tighten around her, revealing more dangers waiting beyond the door they narrowly escaped. Run, Timmy! Run! She shouted, pushing her son forward as she wrestled with the sheer weight of the dark, unwilling to let it take them, but as much as she urged her body to move, it felt like the ground beneath her feet began to shift. The school seemed to groan, the walls pulsing as though alive, aware. Something began to scuttle from the shadows, a horde of darkness rising like a tempest, and Sarah realized it wasn't just one ghostly figure, there were many. As they rushed into night, the specters of memories clung to Gateway High, and they quickly turned back to see a hand reaching out, beckoning. You can never truly escape. That chill ran down Sarah's spine as she grasped Timmy's hand tighter and sprinted into the night. But even as they dashed away, the whispers followed, filling the air with dreadful promises. Would they truly escape? Or was it only the beginning of something much more sinister that would hunt them long after they left the walls of the school behind? The darkness swallowed them whole as they burst into the night. The chill air felt sharp against their skin, yet it couldn't chase away the creeping dread that clung to Sarah's insides. Where do we go? Timmy gasped, glancing around, eyes wide with terror. Just away from here. She cried, pulling him towards the tree line that bordered the school property. The whispers continued their relentless taunt, shivering through the branches above, and Sarah could barely shake the feeling of eyes watching them from the shadows. Each step felt heavier. The forest loomed ahead, twisted trees forming grotesque shapes that seemed to murmur secrets of their own. "Stay close," Sarah breathed, gripping Timmy's hand as they entered the gloom of the woods. A rustle broke the oppressive silence, sending her heart crashing against her ribs. What was out there? Something was always out there. She hurried her pace, urging Timmy forward. They stumbled over roots and fallen branches, each crack echoing like a gunshot in the stillness. Suddenly, Timmy yanked her arm. "Mom! The school, it's gone." She turned. He was right. The dim outline of Gateway High had vanished. Confusion knotted her mind as the shadows shifted around them, warping the trees into sold-out nightmares. Let us keep moving." But where? The trees felt alive, whispering in their language, an unholy chorus like mocking laughter. Then they heard it, a long, drawn-out wail slicing through the air. It resonated deep within her bones, a cry that summoned every fear she had ever known. "Mom! Make it stop!" Timmy's voice trembled, the words barely above a whisper. "Please. It's okay. Just stay by me." Yet, as they crept deeper into the forest, another sound echoed, softer but far more sinister, a giggle, sharp and jarring, sounding like a child's joy twisted into madness. They froze, terror pooling in their chests. "Timmy, we might not be alone," Sarah said, scanning their surroundings. Shadows danced between the trees, silhouettes that darted just out of sight. "Why did we come here?" he whimpered, pressing against her leg. She reached down, wrapping her arms around him. The warmth of their bodies contrasted sharply with the icy air tangled with dread. "I don't know, buddy. I don't know." The giggles grew louder around them, a cacophony of mischief mixed with malice. Sarah clenched her jaw, fighting the urge to run. They needed a plan. They had to think. Then, a figure emerged from the depths. A child, yes, but with a distorted face twisted in devilish glee, eyes glimmering with something unplaceable. "You shouldn't have left the school," it sang, high-pitched and laced with glee. Timmy gasped, clutching her tightly, as the figure stretched its arms, beckoning, just like the shadow had in the school. "Come play. Come play with us forever." Sarah's heart thundered. She pulled Timmy backward, but the woods seemed to shift, branches curling and blocking their retreat. The thing grinned, mouth wide and wrong, as laughter erupted from all sides. "Run!" she screamed, grabbing Timmy's hand and yanking him with her. They dashed through the underbrush, every tripping root and sharp branch tearing at them, with the giggles following, and the shadows stretching. They plunged forward, praying for a way out. But the darkness, it thickened, wrapping tighter around them, the weight of despair pressing in like a storm. A flicker of light suddenly appeared in the distance, a glow that urged them on. Was it salvation? Or another twisted trap? As they sprinted towards the light, the whispers crescendoed, brushing against her ears with familiar warnings. "You can never leave, you can never escape." With every ounce of strength, they raced toward the light, but would it be their salvation? Or the entrance to something far worse? The light grew brighter as they approached, casting a ghostly glow in the tight confines of the trees. Sarah felt an odd mixture of fear and hope. It felt almost real, the way it shimmered like a beacon amid the consuming darkness. "Mom! Is it going to be okay?" Timmy's questions were frantic, like a drumbeat pushing her forward. "Just keep running," she urged, tightening her grip around his tiny hand. As they drew closer, shadows flickered and twisted, playing tricks in the corners of her vision. She squinted against the brightness, desperate to discern the source. Was it a way out, or just another illusion conjured by the darkness? The moment they broke through the last row of trees, they found themselves at a clearing. Moonlight washed over the ground in pale strokes, illuminating the clearing, revealing a dilapidated playground. Rusty swings swayed eerily in the stillness, and remnants of laughter hung in the air like a distant memory. We could hide there," Timmy suggested, his voice shaky yet hopeful. He pointed to a large, overturned slide, painted in bright colors that had long since faded. Before she could respond, the laughter returned louder, more mocking, echoing off unseen walls. It coiled through the air, wrapping around them, igniting panic. "No! They'll find us!" Sarah shouted, pulling Timmy further back into the shadows, hoping to shield them from the sound. The moon began to flicker, its light dimming in and out like a dying candle. The eerie giggles morphed into full-throated cackles, bouncing off the rusted metal of the playground. She could feel her composure beginning to shatter. "Mom! What's happening?" Timmy cried, his eyes wide with terror, darting around as if the ground might open up and swallow them whole. "Stay with me," she hissed, panic igniting her voice. Tears pricked her eyes, the mix of fear and frustration bubbling to the surface. Then, from behind a cluster of bushes at the edge of the clearing, a figure emerged tall and twisted. It wore what once might have been a child's costume, now tattered and stained, its face obscured by a mask made of filthy fabric. Beady eyes glinted from within, and a grin split the darkness, stretching too wide for the human form. "You shouldn't have come here. This is where we play," it screeched, the voice dripping with malice. Sarah felt her heart skitter wildly in her chest, the way animals do when they sense danger. She yanked Timmy closer. "We need to move." They took a hesitant step back, but more shadows stirred around them, whispering promises, luring them deeper into this hellish nightmare. "Playtime is just beginning." The figure lunged forward, hands extending unnaturally, claws poised to grab. With her heart in her throat, Sarah turned, pulling Timmy along, sprinting now towards the edge of the clearing. "Run, Timmy! Don't look back!" As they raced through the grass, the whispers surged, filling her mind with dread. The landscape began to warp, trees swelling, ground shifting like it was a living thing. Everything felt as if it were shifting around them, a living nightmare refusing to let them go. Then they heard the echoes not only of their footsteps, but of something else, something huge. "Mom! What is that?" Timmy shrieked, pointing over her shoulder. Sarah dared a glance, and her blood ran cold. A massive figure loomed behind them, darkness pooling like ink, its body writhing, stretching out. As their legs burned and she fought to maintain control, she felt the tendrils of despair wrap tighter around her. She knew they had to find an exit, but with each step, as the figure followed, it felt as if they were running deeper, not escaping, but entangled in a web that pulled them back into the forest's heart. "Keep running," she yelled, despair nearly choking her. But with every ounce of hope vanishing, the monstrous laughter chased them, promising that whatever awaited at the end of this frantic chase would reveal horrors beyond comprehension. As they approached another murky line of trees, Sarah felt a chill creep up her spine. Its deadened branches seemed to reach for her, yearning for her touch. Bodies of shadows seemed to materialize just beyond the reach of the light, their cries blending with sorrowful wails, begging to be reunited. "Mom, I don't want to die," Timmy cried, his voice cracking. "Neither do I," Sarah shouted back, her heart pounding hard enough to burst. But hope felt like a distant memory now, replaced by terrifying uncertainty. The trees seemed to whisper, "Come play with us," as the darkness closed in what lay just beyond the trees. Would they find an escape, or was it the end of their every nightmare come to life? The darkness thickened, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket, every breath a struggle against the oppressive weight of despair. The laughter, now a cacophony of twisted cries, filled the night, infecting the air with dread. Sarah's feet pounded against the uneven ground, the fear in Timmy's voice driving her forward, deeper into the forest. She felt every branch scratch across her skin, the rough bark clawing at her as if the trees themselves were trying to hold them back. "What do we do? What do we do?" Timmy's voice echoed a child's panic, and Sarah grit her teeth to steady herself, to hold on against the tide of terror rising within her. "Trust me. She barked, her resolve hardening with every heartbeat. But how could she ask him to trust in the unknown, to follow her into this living nightmare? They were trapped in a loop of horror, each step forward feeling like a step deeper into the abyss. Behind them, that monstrous figure surged forth, a washy shadow that twisted and morphed, defying the rules of reality. The darkness gave it form, and Sarah could hear its heavy footfalls crashing against the earth, shaking the very ground beneath them. "You can't escape. We're already playing." It taunted, its voice hauntingly familiar, like a horrible echo of childhood innocence warped into something grotesque. With a surge of adrenaline, she wrenched Timmy toward a cluster of enormous trees, their gnarled roots protruding like skeletal fingers clawing at the moist earth. "Around this way!" she shouted, desperate for any semblance of safety. But the wind began to howl. It cut through the trees, a chilling melody that felt like a warning. As they darted around the trunks, she stumbled on a hidden pit, and Timmy cried out, grabbing her hand tighter. The air was thick with something sinister, and she could feel eyes watching them, hidden somewhere among the branches. "Mom, I don't like this place." Timmy whimpered, and Sarah's heart tightened. I know," she whispered, brushing hair from his forehead with trembling fingers. Her mind shot through frantic possibilities, but there were no safe options left. "We have to keep going. I promise I won't let anything happen to you." Suddenly, the laughter stopped. An unnerving silence fell, heavy and oppressive. The oppressive darkness seemed to cock its head, waiting, listening for their next move. She sensed a shift in the air, a malevolent presence spilling forth from the shadows. "Mom," Timmy whispered, clenching her hand tightly. Then, from behind them, a rustle broke the silence. The thick underbrush stirred, sending a rush of cold air that chilled her to the bone. The creature paused, it seemed, savoring their fear before it struck. Out of nowhere, a scream pierced the night, a piercing cry that split through the stillness like glass shattering. "Timmy, run!" she screamed, her voice sharp with terror. They sprinted away from the sound, but it echoed in her bones, and dread crept up her spine. As they lunged forward, they came upon another clearing, this one strewn with crumpled bits of paper and forgotten toys, remnants of a life long lost to this place. Drawings lay scattered in the dirt, crude yet haunting depictions of the same twisted figure that pursued them, its smile widening as they approached. Sarah's heart dropped. "It can't be coincidence," she murmured, eyes wide with realization. "Look, Mom. Over there." Timmy pointed at a half-buried swing set, warped and rusted, standing like a sentry in the ghostly moonlight. It felt strangely inviting amidst the chaos, its chains glinting ominously in the muted glow. Before she could process, the air thickened again, crackling with an electric tension as though the very forest itself held its breath, preparing for release. "Timmy, listen to me. We need to hide," she urged, tugging him towards the shelter of the swing set. But as they crouched beneath its sagging frame, that sinister voice returned, whispering through the night, "You can't hide from playtime, it's already begun." The underbrush rustled again as the twisted figure seeming to sing. The echoes of lost laughter made its approach, menacing and slow. Desperation crawled into Sarah's chest. If they didn't act now, who knew what game would unfold around them? "Timmy, we need a plan." Before she could finish, an impossibly long silhouette cast a shadow over the two of them, blocking out the last rays of moonlight. "Will you play with us?" it asked, a question dripping with malice. The moment hung between terror and uncertainty as Sarah scrambled to think, but before she could utter a word, a new sound broke the stillness, a ripping, tearing noise, echoing from the depths of the forest. What now lurked behind that darkness? Would fear consume them or bring forth a surge of courage? The swing creaked ominously, as if it anticipated an answer, but would it be the right one? Timmy's breath quickened, matching Sarah's racing heart. They huddled beneath the swing set, the rusted chains rattling in the wind like whispered secrets. The presence loomed over them, the air thickening with a stench of decay that made her gag. Shadows twisted around the grotesque figure, alive with malice, it shifted and expanded, as if eagerly awaiting their answer. "Will you play with us?" it repeated, the words slithering through the night like oily smoke. Timmy's grip tightened, nails digging into Sarah's palm, as she struggled to form a coherent thought. All she could see was that smile, wide and sharp, echoing the sinister mockery of childhood joy gone horribly wrong. Let us just stay quiet, maybe it'll leave us alone," she whispered hoarsely. For a moment, the night felt still. But then, the ripping noise echoed again, louder this time, punctuated by sinister laughter, a guttural sound that rattled her bones. Something was coming. Suddenly, a smaller figure emerged from the darkness, darting out from behind a tree, its face smeared with dirt and disarray. A girl, perhaps 8 years old, her wide eyes shimmering with fear. "Help! It's coming! It wants to play!" Before Sarah could comprehend, the creature shifted its focus, the twisted gaze of the longer shadow snapping towards the newcomer. Another playmate. It boomed delightfully, and the air vibrated with its anticipation. "Run!" Sarah screamed, pulling Timmy, but the swing set slid slightly beneath them, as if it were alive, an unwilling accomplice in this game. The girl's face twisted in a mix of terror and hope, summoning the courage to escape. The laughter erupted again, now joined by a symphony of whispers, eerie and suffocating. "Playtime is the only way. Come join us." Each word stung like biting frost, wrapping around Sarah like barbed wire. "Stay close," she ordered, dragging Timmy forward as the girl joined them, sprinting to the edge of the clearing. But they were trapped, ensnared by the web of shadows that snatched the ground beneath them, each step pulling them deeper into the madness. "Where do we go?" Timmy's voice quaked, a precious tremor that chipped further at her resolve. The world already felt unsteady, brutal realities colliding with nightmares that seeped like poison into their very beings. The creature advanced, its form expanding with each step, the air growing colder, drawing their warmth. "You can't escape. The fun has just begun." Sarah turned, panic surging through her veins. There had to be a way out. A flash of hope ignited, and she saw something glimmering towards the far end of the clearing. A door, wooden and worn but slightly ajar, offered the promise of escape. "There!" she shouted, strength surging through her frame. "This way!" The shadows convulsed, the laughter crescendoing, a monstrous chorus ringing in her ears. They raced forward, the girl matching their speed, but behind them, the figure surged like a tidal wave, blotting out the moonlight with its chaotic form. Just as they reached the door, Timmy stumbled, falling hard onto the ground. "Timmy!" Sarah screamed, turning back. Time slowed, her heart hammering against her ribs, every instinct yelling to abandon the door, to save him. "Leave him!" the girl cried in desperation, but every fiber of Sarah's being rebelled against that command. The darkness swelled, shifting, slithering closer, its voice now a soft purring around them. "Playtime isn't over yet." With a determined cry, she grabbed Timmy's arm, yanking him up as she felt a pull from the shadows, their icy fingers brushing her back. "Now!" With a final burst of energy, they leaped through the door, an unseen force pushing them across the threshold just as the creature's laughter erupted, flooding the air behind them. They tumbled into a new reality, a cold, desolate landscape stretching endlessly in front of them. The door slammed shut behind them, the laughter echoing faintly before being swallowed by the dark void. "Are we safe?" Timmy gasped, catching his breath. Sarah looked around, realizing they were in a mangled playground, warped and twisted just like the one they had escaped. Only now, the moon hung low, red and ominous. "Not yet," she replied slowly, dread gnawing at her heart, chilling her veins. "We're not free." As the shadows of the new surroundings began to shift and close in around them, an all-too-familiar voice whispered, "Playtime has just begun." What new horrors awaited in this forsaken land? Would they ever truly escape? The playground was eerily silent, the color of despair soaking every rusted swing, every chipped slide. The cold, red moon bathed the three of them, Timmy, Sarah, and the unknown girl, in a haunting light, illuminating their fear-stricken faces. Shadows flickered in the corners of their vision, whispering, taunting them. "Where are we?" Timmy stammered, glancing back at the door, an empty promise now shivering as the laughter from before taunted them from the darkness behind. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice cracking as she surveyed the twisted landscape that lay before them. Gone were the familiar comforts of home, all that remained was this strange, warped place, its very essence alive with tension. "But we have to keep moving." "Why?" the girl said, quivering as she instinctively took a step closer to Sarah and Timmy. "What if it comes for us again?" "It will," Sarah said, urgency clawing at her throat. "We can't wait. We can't let it find us here." She took a breath, but the air felt thick and suffocating, like trying to swallow smoke. The girl nodded slowly, determination flaring. "What's your name?" "Sarah," she replied, desperate for connection, afraid to lose this new ally. "And this is Timmy." "What's yours?" "Emily," she whispered, her eyes darting nervously at the creeping shadows. "I was here before. This is its playground." "What do you mean?" Timmy asked, pushing himself off the ground, his legs shaking beneath him. "The last time I played, I didn't win, none of us did." Emily's words hung in the air like a bad omen. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine as she noticed the strange patterns of the ground beneath them, twisted symbols that seemed to shift under her feet. Something about them felt wrong, ancient, like they were alive. "I should run faster," Emily continued, her voice quavering. It took the others one by one. "What did it look like?" Timmy's voice was faint, barely above a whisper. "Just like before, but worse." As if summoned by her memories, a shadow lunged toward them with a splitting shriek that tore through the oppressive silence. The creature emerged from behind a rusted jungle gym, larger and even more terrifying than before. Eyes glimmered with malicious hunger, sharp teeth glistening in the moonlight. "Playtime." It howled, its voice a hideous symphony that reverberated off the decaying structures. "Run!" Sarah yelled, adrenaline igniting her senses as she turned back to the playground's depth. They scrambled down a crumbling path between the shadows, the twisted forms of long-neglected attractions reaching for them like skeletal hands. Heart pounding, Sarah propelled herself forward, pulling Timmy and Emily through the darkness, desperately avoiding the grasp of the shadows. The laughter chased them, echoing in a relentless loop, a sinister reminder of their playmate's promise. "Do we have a plan?" Timmy panted, terror laced in every syllable. "We find a way out," Sarah shouted back, her mind racing. But every corner they turned led to more wretched playground structures, as if they were being drawn deeper into a dreadful maze. Emily glanced behind, her face pale. It's getting closer." A sudden gust of frigid wind stung Sarah's cheeks as they fled, the shadows thickening, curling around their feet, urging them to slow down. "Don't look back. Just keep running." But something pulled at Sarah's focus, a flicker of movement nearby. A dimly lit tunnel between two ancient, gnarly trees beckoned them, its dark maw seeming a safer option than the chaos behind. "Over there!" she yelled, pointing. "We'll go through the tunnel." As they veered towards the entrance, the creature's howl mixed with the sound of ominous crackling. It felt like time itself was unraveling around them. Once inside, shadows danced on the walls like ghoulish specters, their cries muffled but palpable. The air grew heavier, thick with secrets, drawing them deeper into the cold. Suddenly, they emerged into a vast, dark cavern. Walls pulsed like a living creature, shadows warping with malicious glee. "What now?" Timmy gasped, his eyes wild with fear, before Sarah could respond. The cavern trembled. Something stirred within, something ancient, waiting, hungry. The laughter began again, echoing off the cavern walls, closing in around them like a trap. Playtime ends when you win, echoed the sinister voice, mingling with the shadows. And you have yet to play. A wave of dread crashed over Sarah as the cavern shifted, consuming their breath with the promise of more horrors yet to come. What rules governed this place? Would they be forced to play this grotesque game, too? And who else might they encounter in the dark beyond? The cavern seemed to breathe, a slow, morbid undulation that unnerved them. Sarah pushed against the walls, feeling the pulsing heat beneath her fingers, the sensation of something alive pressing at her on all sides. It was like being inside a grotesque stomach. "We need to move," she urged, her voice breaking the suffocating silence. Timmy nodded, his breath hitching in his throat as he scanned their surroundings. Shadows twisted and writhed, almost forming faces, their expressions of twisted glee as they mocked the trio. Emily staggered back, her body shaking. "I can't do this," she whispered, the fight draining from her eyes. "You have to," Sarah insisted, determination surging through her. "If you give in to it, if you let the darkness win, we'll all end up as shadows." But behind them, the laughter crescendoed into a cacophony that filled the chamber, squeezing their hearts in a vice of fear. "Why resist?" The voice taunted, smooth and inviting. "Don't you want to play?" Timmy stumbled, his legs nearly giving way, but Emily grabbed his arm, forcing him to stay upright. "We can't let it pull us under. Follow me," Sarah shouted, plunging into the shadows ahead. They darted through the cavern, an unholy scramble in the darkness. The walls melted away, revealing disturbing images scrawled in a language they didn't understand. Screams echoed, too distant to discern if they were real or figments of their imagination. Each step they took sank deeper into the malevolence. It felt like they were wading through mud, dark and thick. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted, dropping sharply into an abyss. Sarah barely caught herself, Timmy and Emily tumbling forward into her. "Watch out!" she gasped. They scrambled back, but the laughter turned feverish, echoing in a rising pitch that made the hairs on Sarah's neck stand tall. In the corner of her eye, she saw movement, a shadow darting closer, swift and silent. And then, she caught a glimpse of something else, a flicker of white flashes like teeth clicking together, gaping mouths ready to feast. "Over there!" Timmy screamed, pointing to a narrow passageway in the rock, barely illuminated. It looked like hope, like a way out, but it was too small, too tight. Fit for a rat, not for terrified children trying to escape a monster. "We have no choice," Sarah shouted, pulling Timmy and Emily toward the opening. The walls closed in tightly, scraping against their shoulders as they squirmed, the laughter pulsating behind them like a beating heart. Emily cried out, her panic surging as the shadows clawed at them, voices rising in a menacing choir. "Play, play, play," they chanted, a rhythmic refrain that chilled Sarah to the bone. The pressure mounted, squeezing her thoughts into a desperate singularity. Survival. They squeezed through the tunnel, the cries shifted to a deeper, guttural roar. Something big was pursuing them, a presence rather than a form, but it was all too real. They reached the end, emerging through the other side, collapsing onto the cold ground. Breathless, Sarah looked around. They were not in the playground anymore, but in a ruined part of a once vibrant world. Statues leaned ominously, trees twisted like old men in pain, and the ground still pulsed with an underlying rhythm. "This is worse," Timmy breathed, his voice trembling. "What is this place?" "It's alive," Emily said, wide-eyed, disoriented. "And it wants us." For a fleeting moment, they considered staying put, hiding among the ruins. But shadows hungrily crawled over them in this new space, and the laughter rose higher, threatening to drown out their thoughts. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, hopelessness already beginning to seep into her veins like poison. "We have to find something. A weapon, or a way to fight back." But as they began to search, fear gnawing at their minds, the laughter morphed. It twisted into something familiar, a voice they hadn't heard in years. A child's voice, Sarah. It called in a sing-song tone, tinged with mockery and nostalgia. Are you ready to play again? A chill wrapped around Sarah's heart, stretching out to her arms and legs, freezing her in place. It was a voice from her past, and it sent tendrils of horror through her. Who had come to join this cursed game? Who's there? She shouted nervously, knowing even as she spoke that something far more sinister lurked just beyond the shadows. As the chilling echo of the laughter rang out, Sarah's resolve crumbled within her chest, merging with the heavy despair of the tunnel of shadows. Just as the darkness began to close in, she realized two things: the laughter might be familiar, but the voices weren't quite the same who had answered her desperate call in the dark. And what new horrors awaited them in this cursed playground? The shadows stirred, their edges sharpening as the air thickened with dread. Sarah's heart raced, a relentless drum in her chest, as the chilling laughter warped around her, wrapping her in an icy grip. "It can't be," she muttered, her voice barely a whisper against the rising tide of panic. Timmy and Emily stood frozen beside her, their eyes reflecting the terror unfolding. "We shouldn't be here," Timmy breathed, his voice quivering like the leaves of the twisted trees that surrounded them. "Who are you?" Sarah shouted again, steeling herself against the encroaching darkness. "Show yourself." A flicker of movement caught her eye. Shapes skittered among the stones, pausing every so often as if watching. They were small, hunched figures with hollow eyes and toothy sneers. Suddenly, the familiar voice sang out once more. "Sarah! Come play with us." This time it echoed with a malicious glee that churned the stomach, bending the edges of memory into something grotesque. Is that Jenna?" Emily asked, her voice cracking. She stepped back, glancing nervously at the shadows. "No way, she can't be. She's gone." A rush of memories flooded back sunny days, laughter in the playground. Jenna was always the one leading them into mischief. But that was before. Before the accident that had taken her and left them with nothing but grief. "Forget her!" Sarah screamed, her fear morphing into anger. "We need to find a way out." But the shadows lengthened, snaking closer, whispering promises of escape mingled with dark laughter. As they clung together, the sinister melody morphed once again. "All games must have you in the end, dear Sarah. Come join us." "Don't listen!" Timmy shouted, his voice cracking. "Remember the stories? This place, it feeds on memory." The ground trembled beneath them. The ancient statues twisted, seeming to nod in agreement, their stony faces lighting with an unnatural glow. Sarah forced her gaze away, focusing on the narrow path ahead, an avenue riddled with rubble and despair. "I see something," Emily declared, pointing to a faint glimmer nestled beneath vines of darkness. As they hurried closer, they stumbled upon an old wooden box, intricate carvings dancing along its surface. It pulsed an eerie light, calling to them like a siren. "What's inside?" Timmy murmured, vibrating with uncertainty. The laughter swelled around them again, drowning out their thoughts. "We shouldn't open it. Maybe it can help us," Sarah countered, feeling drawn towards the box. "If it's a weapon, we have to try." With trembling hands, she pried it open. A whispering wind escaped from the box, filling the air with a fragrance of decay and grief. Inside lay a collection of small bones, intricately bound together with threads that glowed faintly. "What the hell?" Emily gasped, stepping back. Shadows lurked closer, now forming into ghostly faces that wore expressions of longing and hunger. "Play with us. Play." The voices wailed, rising into a crescendo that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. "We have to make a decision," Timmy yelled over the cacophony. "Open it or run." The weight of the moment crashed down on them. As she hovered over the box, Sarah felt its pulse quickening, its secrets begging to be released. Shadows clawed at the edges of her vision, hungry and eager. "Do it!" The voices hissed, almost kind, almost seductive. "Join us forever." But would opening the box bring them salvation or doom? It was then that Sarah noticed something strange about the bones. Some were cracked, while others shone with unnatural light. It was as if the tales of loss and sacrifice were woven into that very artifact. Wait! What if this is a trap? Emily shouted, tears shimmering in her eyes. What if we open it and it binds us to this place? As the shadows curled tighter around them, the decision loomed heavy. Timmy's face turned pale, desperation etching deep lines across his forehead. In that moment, Sarah knew that not every game was meant to be played. But something deep inside her whispered otherwise. Open it! She screamed. The darkness seemed to hold its breath as time stretched. Would they find a way to fight back, or would they unknowingly seal their fate in that cursed playground? A sudden, chilling silence fell as the box creaked open wider, revealing a blinding light and their reflections twisted within it. Was it their own faces staring back, or something far worse? And just like that, they took the plunge into the unknown. The light enveloped them, crashing over their skin like waves in a storm. It pulsed with energy, a tangled echo of fear, hope, and something else. As they stepped forward, shadows writhed behind, screeching in anguish. You can't leave. Playtime has just begun. But time felt warped, breathing around them like that heavy fog in Gateway High. Sarah squeezed Timmy's hand tighter, a protective instinct rising from deep inside her. She forced herself to stay grounded, to face whatever this was. We need to see what's inside, she urged, her voice steady amid the chaos. Timmy's breath hitched, eyes wide with worry. What if it's a trick? Emily stepped forward, her hand trembling, uncertain. Maybe it can set us free, she whispered. In that moment, clarity struck Sarah, clearer than ever before. Whatever it is, we'll face it together, she said, needing to give them strength. The light shimmered, expanding then contracting, revealing ominous shapes swirling around them. Open it! She shouted, her voice fierce, carrying the weight of her love and fear. Together. With hands trembling, Emily reached inside the box, pulling out a bone radiating soft light. It felt warm against her skin, buzzing with possibility. Shadows shrieked in fury, twisting against the edges of their sanctuary. Now! Sarah urged. Gathering their courage, they placed the bone back into the box. As it settled, the air thickened, and the shadows halted, writhing as if in torment. The pulsating light intensified, illuminating their surroundings like the dawn breaking after dark. Remember, Sarah breathed deeply, we're stronger than this darkness. The shadows recoiled, the laughter turning from malicious to panicked. It felt like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place, as if their collective strength was unraveling the very fabric of the terror surrounding them. With renewed resolve, Sarah grabbed Timmy's hand, and Emily followed suit. We're leaving. We are not your playthings. With that declaration, the light surged, activating the shapes swirling around, transforming them into pathways leading out of the cavern. They sprinted toward the emerging light, the darkness screaming behind them, fading into whispers of despair. As they barreled through the pathways, the oppressive weight began to lift from their shoulders. Moments later, they burst into an open space, clean, bright, filled with the scent of rain and fresh earth. Stumbling onto solid ground, they looked around, breathless, yet invigorated. The grotesque playground of shadows faded into the mist behind them. The world had shifted. Was that real? Timmy glanced up at his mother, tears in his eyes, but a smile breaking through. Did we really escape? Sarah knelt, cupping his face in her hands. Yes, we did. We're safe. Emily stepped closer, her smile brightening the atmosphere. We are together, and that's what matters. But as they turned to leave, they heard one last echo of laughter weaving through the trees. You can never truly escape. The shadow of darkness loomed but held no power anymore. They shared a frantic look, understanding now there were shadows everywhere, but together, they would face anything. Hand in hand, they stepped away from that cursed place, stepping into the light of a new dawn, a future that looked bright, no matter the shadows that haunted the edges. Their love, their unity held a power that could break the chains of despair. "Let's go home," Sarah whispered, leading them forward with a fierce heartbeat of hope. As they walked, an unseen warmth wrapped around them. Timmy glanced back one last time, the playground now only a fading memory, a lesson learned in the trials of fear and courage. They had escaped, but the stories would live on, and they would tell them to prepare others. No matter how dark it gets, there's always a way back to the light. And so they marched into a new beginning, together, ready to tell the tale. Now, if you've enjoyed diving into this wild and intense journey with us, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you can catch all our future exclusive stories and uncover more mysteries with us. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and help us spread the word. And hey, we want to hear from you. Flood the comments with your reactions, your thoughts, and wild theories about the ending. Let us keep the conversation alive. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. They deserve the thrill and the chills just like you. Your support means the world. Together we can keep the laughter echoing in the light.